So I guess in comparison to Mark and Tom, how was Scott like in studio? Because he wasn't really one of the leaders of the band, right? Like, how was he as a person?
I mean, I don't recall him being in a leadership mode, you know? I just recall him like, okay, you know, Scott knows the songs. He's going to bang them out. Let's start on them, you know? I'm sure we were making a few small changes on the fly, but we were probably also trying to stick to the playbook pretty close so that we didn't get too out there and kind of get lost, you know?
And you were saying technically he was still like a decent drummer?
Yeah, I felt that he was decent. You know, I've heard other people, you know, talk about his work in a less complimentary way, but I don't feel that Scott was incompetent. I feel that he was a decent punk rock drummer, and we were able to nail the songs down with him behind the kit and move on. I thought he did a good job, you know? And I recall him being, more on the quiet side. I recall him taking input where we had it for him as far as, you know, trying to get through parts or figure stuff out. You know, he wasn't fighting anybody on anything. You know, he was a team player.
Would you happen, I mean, there's a lot of conflicting information online. Would you happen to know why he, you know, was no longer a part of Blink-182?
I honestly don't. And that's just because that after that record was done, we were both sort of on our separate busy paths. And I probably hadn't have even found out about it until I looked at one of the later records and seen that Travis was now, you know, the guy.
Were you just on a personal level surprised at all when Scott was no longer with the band?
Not, maybe a little, like in the sense that that the three guys really kind of seemed to come from the same place. You know, like that they seemed like a unit to me, the three of them. Like, you know, personally. And so maybe in that respect, I thought, oh, that's kind of odd, you know, because they seem tight and they seem close and they seem to have something going. But I'm not, you know, privy to any information as far as how those decisions were made or what that's about. So that's about as much as I can honestly speak to it about. Scott was great. He applied himself and he worked hard and he wanted the best for his performances. And we really did try and get, you know, he didn't have a terrific kit. We got squeezed the best out of it that we could. I seem to recall him just after being done, sort of being relieved that he was done and just kind of kicking on the couch and letting the other guys do their thing. You know, he didn't interject too much. And you know, sort of once he was done, he was done.
So you did the drum parts first and then everything else afterwards?
Yeah, I think what we did was we recorded the songs like live off the floor. I don't think we were working with a click track. I just think that they played the songs. I might have like punched in a click track at the top of the song just to count off or something, you know, so they had a tempo to start at or a reference and then had them play it. And then we probably like patched bass here and there and then went back and kind of tried to figure out what our guitar sound was going to be. Probably patched guitar on the Fender track. And then started a new track with the Fender and the Marshall kind of blended together where we had more of a tone. And then doubled all the rhythm parts. Probably just put a few octave parts in here and there, you know, small overdub parts.
So you guys didn't do any like just singular drum recording? The drumming was part of, I guess, the live ensemble?
Yeah, it would have been part of the live performance. Just because of the time constraints that we were dealing with. Like at that era, recording to tape on a record with a budget, I would have a click track set up, printing that to tape. We'd already have a scratch guitar and a scratch vocal on tape, and the drummer would be playing by himself to scratch guitar, click, and a vocal. And then I would build the band around, or you know, it's still sort of my method, and then I'd build the band around that.
You guys had such a compressed time. Did you have any time for, you know, any of those classic Blink shenanigans, or did you guys have to just kind of work?
Yeah, no, I don't think that there wasn't a lot of downtime for shenanigans, you know. Probably would have been a good thing if there were. I just remember for the most part it just being like a very intense working experience.
Were you familiar with the songs before you started recording them that day?
No, not at all. There was no pre-production, you know, and pre-production is one of my big tools, and it's something that I like to spend time on.
You know, you mentioned that you found the songs humorous. When you were recording them kind of carte blanche and you didn't really know them before, and you were just hearing him sing the lyrics, were you ever like laughing in the studio?
Oh, no. I mean, there was times where I was almost falling out of my chair. I'm literally serious. I can remember even one, maybe it was Benoit Balls or something. And I said, Mark, this song is so good, dude, and it's so funny. I said, I think I'm going to kind of like, since I moved to LA, I kind of want to start playing and put a band together. And I remember telling him, I said, I'm going to cover that song because I love that tune. You know, so I was, as in my recollection, being very supportive of what they were doing and very encouraging of what they were doing. I recall being caught up in the spirit of it, in the humor of it, and it's at times just the joy of it, you know?
Yeah.
And then there was, the tracking part was probably like the most relaxed, fun part. The part where you have to come in on a Sunday and mix 17 songs, that was probably not the fun part. This is days like, this is before like you burn a CD, right? This is like you have to take the mix, dump the mix onto a cassette, take the mix on the cassette to the car, listen to it in the car, bring it back, make the adjustments, dump the mix to the cassette again, go to the car again. Like that's how we mixed records then.
That's nuts. You know, it's funny. I was talking with Jack Endino, Nirvana's original producer, a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying, you know, similar thing. First time he recorded Nirvana, he basically had 5 hours to mix like 10 songs. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy what you guys have to do sometimes.
Well, the thing is though, too, like, but I had worked with some good mixers up in Canada, and I had sort of seen a couple of guys basically pull that feat off, you know, with maybe a little bit of extra preparation. So I wasn't afraid of it. I was more afraid of not being consistent between the mixes, like getting too far off center of how a mix sounded, you know? And I think back then we were mixing for consistency between songs on a record. We wanted it to sound like one thread, one record. Not like modern records where you throw everything but the kitchen sink in your arrangement to keep people's attention because like you don't have a song or you don't have a lyric. I like working on arrangements and I like working on form. I like to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward and that we're that we fine tune the song before we record it so that we know we've got a developed idea that we're putting forward. So I was probably a little bit nervous about that too, like not knowing what the material was going to be, like walking in. Like I knew it was going to be sort of Southern California punk rock, but I mean, that could mean a lot of things too, right? Coming from where I had come, like working up in Montreal on more budgeted productions where there was time for pre-prod or there was time for research, or at least you got a cassette with the songs on it beforehand. So you had some idea of the arrangements. Like we didn't have any of that, you know? I just kind of recall it sort of, you know, eating on the run. There weren't a lot of break times. We were moving very fast. We were working all the time, really just working all the time. Because that was the only way it was going to get done. Yeah, I recall a couple of times where we might have felt like, oh man, are we going to make it, or feeling a little discouraged. But in the end, I think the humor of the songs and just like the situation itself, I think we were able to navigate it. Easy does it, but do it sort of thing. And I recall that was sort of the attitude, you know?
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe for more. All the videos on this channel are original. I'm the one conducting all the interviews and editing all the videos together. So if you guys like what you see and you want to support, the best way to do so is honestly just to subscribe. Lots more to come.